All right, all right. We are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What's Going On. I'm your host, Michelle, and today we have a very special guest with us. It is Coffe Summers. She is a journalist and editor in chief of Coffee Magazine. She has a keen focus on uplifting emerging entrepreneurs and creatives. Coffee is poised to offer valuable insights into the current media cycle surrounding the entrepreneurial landscape and the importance of representation in today's industry. So I'm not going to give too much away. I'm going to let Miss Coffee tell us a little bit about herself as we get started. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background.
Well, I started off in design business school, and then I kind of was trying to get into publishing a little bit and maybe advertising. So I done graphic design for a couple of companies and content creation. So marketing and graphic design has always been my thing, and art. So I've been in
Okay.
that little creative circle for a long time. So
Okay.
then one day I was just like, you know what? If I can't be a part of another magazine, I won't mind starting my own. So
Okay.
just jumped out there and
So
just tried it.
something you said, if you couldn't be a part of a nugget, did you try? Were you
I
working for
tried, but at the time when I graduated, it was like a little bit right after 9/11.
it? Mm.
And corporate America wasn't, we went through a couple of slumps. It was some
Yeah,
waves up and down. And
absolutely.
so I'm from the Midwest. Didn't think it was safe to travel. It was just a lot of things going on where I didn't want to be stuck somewhere. And so to stay close to my family and figure out, navigate this new thing, because you graduate college and there's no rule book. It's just like, get a
Mm-mm.
job, you got bills to pay. So
Absolutely.
I was focused on trying to work. And then you with creative, you trying to focus on trying to find a way to get a dream, but then you like, how am I going to fund this dream? So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you have a background in design and graphics and everything.
mhm.
What really, you said did you always want to work for a magazine or be a part of a
I
magazine?
wanted
Like,
to work in advertisement. So I
okay.
never knew what that looked like. I come from a background, my mom's an educator. My dad worked at a plant. So it was just like you need a job with pension. So I
Okay.
didn't know, I didn't know what that looked like. And I don't know if that's like just living in the bubble that I was in, but it wasn't until I went away to school, you start networking with different people, and you're like, at this time, this is like, I know I'm dating myself, but this was like when cell phones were started off big and you're getting the network with people that weren't like next door. And so
Mhm.
now I'm seeing how other people are living, not just when I'm on vacation. So
Ab-
everything was new. It wasn't like now where you're like, oh, you can do anything as a job and profit.
Absolutely. So was this your first time stepping out and becoming an entrepreneur when you started this magazine, or would you consider yourself having been an entrepreneur prior to that because you were trying to find a way?
No, this was probably the first.
Okay.
Before then, I didn't, like I said, I've seen people have their own businesses in our community, but it wasn't an option for me. I actually started school for engineering. So
Hmm.
I was gonna be an architect. So, people in school, your teachers will tell you, if you're good at math and science and you like to draw. I was like, okay, that sounds like architecture, but it was just, I won't say it's dry, but it just didn't like, keep me motivated.
Mhm.
So I
So,
switched to business, yeah.
so having that type of background, what was that journey like? So you decided you wanted to have your own magazine. Tell us what that journey was like from when you were like, this is something I'm gonna do. What was that process like? How long did it take? Share your journey with us.
Huh. It took a while because I didn't have like a mentor. So
Mhm.
I kind of tried to, at the time, you had to go actually find physical books and you had to just try to navigate and say what past interviews of maybe magazine publishers. So like the biggest name out then was Essence, Double XL, even Ebony, like, those magazines were in the game for a while, but they had no history that was public on Google to
Mm.
say, okay, this is the blue book. This is the blueprint. So
Yeah.
I kind of just tried the research and I said, you know what? Since I'm the owner, it could be whatever I want. So I went into my brat mode and was like, it's what I want, it's how I want it. And this is just going to be it. And then I could try to find out who likes it.
Mm-hmm.
So the journey was short because I took control of what I wanted to see. And my main thing was to try to capture people that were not highlighted before, because I was a magazine reader and I would always see the same people in there. So if they were, entertainers or whatever they were on like 6 covers at one time. And it's like, okay, are these the only people doing things? This cannot be possible, because I know for a fact I see people in the community that are doing things on a celebrity level, but you don't see the articles. So that was my main thing. Let me find people that are either in the background helping me to be a celebrity, or they need to be recognized, period.
Mm-hmm.
So I just step by step, I tried to create a team, and a lot of people aren't prepared for the work that goes into it, especially when you have deadlines. So it's always been a revolving door with me on how to perfect it, because as soon as you get it a certain way, something else changes in the industry. So I try to stick to the fact of who I want to like it and how I want it to look.
Okay. So when did you launch?
I launched in 2009 initially.
Okay, that's when I launched my business. Okay. It was a trying time too. That was the trying time. Anybody who was around back then knows that 2008, 2009 period was rough out in these streets.
It was like, this is what adulting is. This is how.
Yes. Yes.
So it was 2009. Yeah.
So because of the year that you launched, what were the challenges? I know you said you were trying to create a team, but everybody doesn't see the vision like you see the vision, right?
No, and that was the rude awakening. Because you see success stories back then, you see success stories, and no one showed the ugly. They just now showing the ugly on the rise of social media.
Mm-hmm.
But before it was like, I did this, and then I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, that's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out and I tried to go door to door, like to businesses, and get advertisement. That didn't work. And so it was just one of those things where it was like, is this something I should be doing, or am I dreaming too big? This is the challenge. So I was like my biggest hurdle, because I kept getting in my mind about it, and I just couldn't imagine it taking this type of toll on the people that started it before me. But of course, they make it look easy once they reach the peaks, once they reach the goal. So I'm like, okay, you just got to stick to it. And I had people help that were really solid. My designer at the time, he was excellent. And I had some people rallying me around the community, but I didn't know what I needed in order to tell them how to assist.
And that's important.
I think this is the major challenge of any entrepreneur, because you're so excited about the business itself, that to-do list and that need list. This is why you need a partner in a team, so they can say, hey, let's come back to reality. We need this type of budget. We need to fulfill this type of need. And when you don't have that, you're just kind of getting by month to month. And so for a while, it was month to month. And I was trying to find ways to get it printed the way I needed it to, and it just wasn't working. And so I took a break, because I'm like, okay, I'm not big enough in my brain. So I took a break, and then I just kept doing like a revisit to it. And I didn't really make the push, I think 100%, where I was confident in all aspects of it until like 2018.
Wow.
Because it was like family life, and it was just like I'm dipping and dabbing in it. I would take it into like a blog style, and I would keep switching it up. And I'm like, okay, you need some consistency. So I printed it for a while. And then, they started print on demand, which was a lifesaver. So I did that for a while, and it just was like, I want more. I kept wanting more.
So 2018 is when you finally got it going the way you wanted to. Yes. At that time, were you still working a 9-to-5, or was this like, oh goodness? Well, that is the entrepreneur life until you get to a certain level, right?
Yeah. So
So what was
It
that?
was, and if you think about it, the economy and all that span still was up and down. So
Mhm.
first it was you gotta have education. Then it was you gotta have experience. Then it was you gotta have education plus experience.
Mhm.
Then it was like, how can I get the experience without the experience? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like I gotta start somewhere,
Like
right?
who invented this interview process?
Right.
So I was taking jobs that were like just random jobs. And
Mhm.
I never could get to the job that I considered that I could sustain even if I wasn't working for myself. But
Mhm.
after a while, even when I was able to secure a job that I kind of liked, I still was in my head saying, I don't want to be here. I
Mhm.
need to do this other thing or I can't breathe. Like I would go through periods
Oh,
where it would almost take me out. I would be ready to just walk out the job. And I was like, you can't leave. So I just felt like in this horrible space until I was like, you know what? I'm done. So COVID was not saying COVID was a blessing, but
mhm.
COVID
Mhm.
allowed me to just do the magazine.
Gotcha. So right now it's just a magazine, but let's talk a little bit about the people that you highlight and the stories that you focus on with this magazine. So tell us about who will you see, what stories will you read about, what is the magazine about today?
It's still about creating and curating a shared platform for success. So I want people to be able to rally around and support people that are sharing their stories. Because you may have a like-minded story, or you may be able to be an ally and create and enlarge each other's territory. So
Mhm.
like the people I'm featuring are still business owners, creatives, and anyone that's already a celebrity, I guess quote unquote celebrity, or have some type of fame. They're offering advice or telling about their struggles and challenges that they may have faced at that time when they started. And so those stories are still relevant and evolving. But I want people to be able to reach out and actually talk to these people on their own. So I try to make sure that they know all their information
Mhm.
that's possibly to be public, and they can take it on themselves to say, I'm only going to give you your attention span amount of information. And then it's up to you to reach out to these people and support them and go on a journey with them if you're interested in more. So
Mhm.
I try to still leave that cliffhanger so you can engage with this person on your own time. I don't want to tell their entire story. That's not my place. I just want to get everyone interested and say, hey, I think this person is cool. I think this person has a lot of knowledge. I think you should take another look if you pass their page
Mhm.
and go on a journey with them, because that's somebody you need to know, because in 10 years, this person is going to be where you want to be.
Absolutely. It's good to be able to, a lot of times you'll look in these magazines like SwagHer in your magazine, and you start to see people that it's important to see people who look like us, right? Or who have
That part.
similar stories or similar backgrounds. So how do you find your, like, what is that process like when you're preparing for another issue, right? What do you have like a theme of what this next issue is going to be? Like, what is that creative process like when you're looking for your like how does it all come together?
It's usually just I'm gonna be honest. It's usually I didn't want to do themes because I think I would have got locked in.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
initially when I did curated the entire magazine, I had a cover story, and then I picked people that coincided with the cover story to be in that issue, as well as tips, information you need to know based on what that person does.
Hmm.
This year I pivoted into just having a digital cover
Okay.
with the interview story, and then any other information you need will be on the website.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be theme based, but I'm still giving you the vibe of you being the spotlight of the actual cover.
So are you digital and print now or just strictly digital?
I'm strictly digital right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about underrepresented underrepresented creatives. What role do you think the media plays in shining a light on those? Do you think it's it's the responsibility of the creative to seek that out, or do you think the media or platforms like yours should be seeking those? Like, what do you think the role is of the media?
I think the role of the media, because it's been wavered a little bit, it should be still to tell the honest side of the story. It doesn't have to be so honest that it's like a tabloid, I guess I would say. But the responsibility is still to be truthful to that person and respectful to the audience at the same time. Even if you're not a celebrity, you may have been in a position of the person that they're writing about. And I think the headline and those catchphrases matter instead of creating like clickbait. So I would say the more honest you are as far as just titling it to say what the thing is, then people won't go to it and the energy won't be off. I feel like when it's a negative headline, you're demanding this type of energy because you want people to go in and you want them to comment crazy things. And it's like the story is never really heard. So now you're not hearing the story. Now you're upset about something else that's totally off topic, and this person doesn't get the true light that they need. So I think it's a catch depending on your media mission. If your media mission is to keep stuff stirring, then people need to realize this is what this is going to be. And so if you don't like this, you need to go seek something else out. But if you're news, and I feel like your media that people hold responsible for being educated, you need to start educating people.
Absolutely. Now, do you find in the media the way it is now, because social media and it's a great thing, but sometimes it can be like it's so inundated with the negatives and the clickbait and and we're all human, right? I think we all like a little, ooh, what happened? But but how do you balance that, like knowing what humans want to see and want to hear sometimes? Like we love those feel good pieces. We love to see somebody creating something and becoming something. But how do you balance the desire for a lot of people to want that spice versus just, highlighting the good stuff? Like, have you ever, at one point in time, was your magazine ever a little different where it was like, okay.
Yeah. I've seen others say, this would be a better way for you to get an audience if you start doing this. But I say, like, when you go to a restaurant, if you want a place that serves good barbecue, you go to a barbecue place. If you want some place that serves good pasta, you go to the pasta place. I don't feel like people should keep jumping in each other's lane just to get people to say, look at me, I'm over here. Because now I don't want to go to you for things I like anymore because you're selling hot dogs at the pasta place. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I tell myself, like, if I need a dose of that, I go where that is for my personal dose. But I have a responsibility. I'm telling people in my tagline what I'm showing them. And this is what they're going to get from over here. Because this is what I want to give you as my gift, as my contribution to media. And then, if I want to do anything else, like I want to eventually, I've been starting into film and different things. That's where I get my creative, or where if I want to be silly or whatever on this side. But this particular platform is just for this. And this is what you're going to get from this.
Okay. I get it. Because like you said, up front what you're going to get over here. So if that's not what you want, go over there and get that.
Yes. Because then the people that love that, now you're not showing them loyalty. You're just saying, hey, I'm just trying to get other people to look. You're not worth my time. Yeah. Like this is ridiculous. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the future of media and representation, because we know representation matters, especially for us. With the increasing emphasis on diversity and inclusion, or sometimes I say they want to get rid of it, but we know that it's more than just Black people. I think a lot of times when you think DEI, they automatically think Black. But DEI goes across the board. We're talking about women, like minorities in general, like people in underserved or non-represented community. So, can you speak to how you're working to shift that narrative and create opportunities for new talent?
I've always just said if you're talented, this is what it is. I feel that sometimes we put ourselves in a box when we limit and say this is just a women's only business. We know it's women's only business. We see women there. Or a lot of times I feel that that is inclusive thing is whatever's the minority in that particular industry. We need to let you know what I mean. That's who they recently were letting people in on was who a minority was in that industry, not necessarily like brown or we've been a minority across the board, but it's assisted in letting a lot of people sit at that table and give other perspectives. So if you're from this walk of life, that's why I say creating a shared success because we're even if we're doing the same thing, we don't have the same story. And so sharing the story part is how I've been contributing to that because we want to know the why. We want to know how you started. We want to know what keeps you going, not just the fluff. Anybody can say they're at a certain level and buy a home. Okay. How did you come to the conclusion that you wanted that type of home in that type of area? Or who did you talk to, or what was the benefits of living in that place? So the whole experience is painted versus saying, we're already here. We just giving you A and Z, not the rest of the stuff in between.
So, what do you think the future looks like in media? Let's talk AI.
Okay.
Do because I have a love-hate relationship with AI. They're powerful tools, but they can be used in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Do you utilize AI to help you with your magazine? What are your thoughts on AI when it comes to media, especially when like publications?
I love I'm not gonna say I love AI, but I have a love-hate relationship as well. And how I use it is I'll write the whole thing and then I'll let AI type me a different perspective. Only because it's only one me. So I'm only going to see it how I see it. I may even read it, skipping words because I know what I wanted to write. So it's almost like a Grammarly to me. I don't use it to create the ideas. I don't use it to write the whole thing. I try to use it to organize my thoughts. So I may even put a ton of bullet points and say, recreate my list and importance of viral worthy posts. So I can get what the computer across the board sees that I don't see, which initially you would have maybe two people do that job. They would do all the research. They would go check your list. They'll double check what you wrote. They'll say, well, you should say this sentence instead. Well, I tell AI, can you rewrite this in my voice, but make sure you include my funny and put that joke first, or like just so I won't be lost in rereading it over and over and over again. And I pick if I like the AI version better than mine, and then I figure out which one I want to use. So I use it as a tool of organization, not as a tool of creativity, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I think it's a good tool if used in the right way. So absolutely. So for someone who started your journey with this magazine in 2009, what would you say to somebody, entrepreneur out there? It doesn't have to be a magazine that they want to start, but all that self-doubt or I can't do it right now. Like, what would you say to somebody who has had an idea for a while, has a great, basis for a business? What would you say to them to inspire them to not give up or on their journey?
I would say you have to start. So half of the battle is being okay with failing. I failed tons of times, and I'm probably gonna fail again. It's like when you're in school and you get your first F or your first whatever you were getting, you got your first B minus, whatever it is. The initial shock is maybe devastating, but after a while, you get used to saying, I can bounce back from that. So I would say always do your research, whatever you do, and see if you feel like it's worth your why. But you have to start in order to see if you like it, if you're going to succeed, if you're going to fail. If you don't do it, you will never know. And then you look up 4 years later and you could have been done doing what you thought was going to take you 6 months to do. You you bypassed 6 months, a year already, and you could have said, "Oh, okay, I see. This is not what I want to do. I stressed about it, and I really love it. And now let me find myself workshops to get better." It's that whole thing you're neglecting to do because of the fear part. And I think that happens when we become older. Because now you see the what ifs in your brain versus you were like 5 or 6 and you just like, I don't care.
I'd do anything.
I'm gonna jump off this porch and I hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just life brings fear into you, and then you just have to look at stuff without emotion in it. Write it down and say, what would I tell somebody else to do? Because you always give good advice to other people, but when
true. But like, why did I tell myself that?
Like, let me write down and rewatch this interview because I know I told somebody to be confident about the next move they make. So yeah.
Okay. So how about the buy-in? How did you personally get people to buy in, to get behind you, whether it was investors or just support teams? Because a lot of times in the beginning, we have to have people who believe or see the dream. Like we gotta get them to buy into that, to support us until we get to that spot.
That's always an uphill battle, a challenge. And I remind myself that even people that are at the top have to convince a team of investors when they have a new project. So no one will ever be as invested as me in it. I just try to get people excited about the next step, if that makes sense. So not about the whole thing as a whole, because that's not going to happen fast enough for them.
Yeah.
So I'll say, okay, next month we got this. And this is going to happen. Like, oh, that sounds great. So they're able to see the result, not in social media instant, but instant enough where they can be satisfied with assistance. So if someone invests X amount of money and then they got to wait 2 years to see that, I'm not the stock market. They're not going to like that. So I have to give them quick results and quick turnaround on what they can see.
That makes sense. So what do the next several years look like for Coffe Magazine? What do people have to look forward to?
Everything, we are going into film. We are doing more documentary style interviews. We have a couple of short interview segments on our YouTube. Because we started before with like a show called 15 Minutes. But now we have But First Coffe. We have the digital cover collection. We have Coffe Interviewed. So I'm trying to get now where I can get other creatives to let us share your things, not like a Netflix or anything, but to share your content that may be related to our audience. And that's just us doing share thing in case you don't have enough following or you looking to have someone marketed a little bit differently. We are willing to promote your brand as well. So,
oh, that's exciting. Now, what is the best way for? I want people to be able to get in touch with you, right? So, I want you to give out all the information, all the deets, so that they, if someone is interested in either interviewing you or someone's interested in finding out how they can get their story highlighted in your magazine, if they, like, hey, I want to work with her. Like, how can I help grow your dream even bigger? Like, tell us how they can get in touch with you.
They can email at info@coffeemag.com. That's COFFEAMAG.com. You can visit the website, coffeemag.com, COFFEAMAG.com. If you go on there, it has be featured as a tab. And I always have things where you can be featured or assisted. There's also a tab for writers. And there's also just a general contact where you can submit a form. So I'm always available. I may not email you immediately back, but definitely willing. Right now we're taking press releases and different ideas and interviews for later. Most of our interviews now have been in person. So if you're further than the Midwest, sometimes I have to push it back because I have to have more people in that area in order for us to take the trip. But we are willing.
Okay.
We are willing to meet you where you are. But any type of write-up is good. If you're interested in being a writer and you just have a whole lot of people you want to feature, or you know stories you want to tell, submit the writer registration part, and we are looking for more writers as well, because that's just the site part of it. So
awesome. Well, if there was anything you wanted to leave the audience with today, what message would that be?
I would say be patient.
Mm.
Patience is something you need to have with yourself, and patience with other people. And then you will see the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
I believe if you sit in it for a while, things come together. So the patience is needed.
Oh yeah.
Get excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And give yourself grace.
Give yourself grace within that, when that's still time.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself grace. Have conversations with yourself during this time. You're not crazy if you have a meeting in the car by yourself. That's fine.
Exactly.
That is like in the entrepreneur handbook.
Yep.
Meeting at 9 a.m. with your coffee.
Mm-hmm. With yourself.
In the car.
Yeah. All
Yes.
right. Well, Ms. Coffe Summers, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here with what's going on. I wish you much success with your magazine and all the things that you're expanding to in the future. And thank you for being here.
I just love what you're doing. So yes, much success to you as well. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us this episode of What's Going On. Have a wonderful Saturday. We'll see you next time.